Imagine two of the most advanced ships of their time, loaded with enough food for 3 years, sailing into the heart of the Arctic. On board, 129 men, led by the veteran explorer Sir John Franklin. Their mission, to conquer the final, unnavigated section of the Northwest Passage. They were the pride of the British Royal Navy, equipped with steam engines and central heating. They waved goodbye from the shores of England in May 1845, destined for glory. But what happened next is one of history's most terrifying mysteries. They sailed into the ice and vanished. Every single one of them. For 2 years, silence. The British Admiralty wasn't worried at first. Franklin was a seasoned commander. The ships were robust. But as the months turned into years, a chilling realization dawned. Something had gone terribly wrong. The largest search and rescue operation in history was launched. Dozens of ships, thousands of men, scoured the vast, frozen labyrinth of the Canadian Arctic. They were searching for heroes. What they found instead were whispers of a nightmare. The first clues were found in 1850 on a desolate island called Beechy Island. 3 graves. The headstones bore the names of crewmen who died in early 1846. This was expected. Life in the Arctic was harsh. But nearby, searchers found a stack of over 600 empty tin cans, meant to hold the crew's preserved food. They had been discarded carelessly, and the solder used to seal them was sloppy, leaking inward. This wasn't just a minor detail. This was the first hint of a slow, creeping poison. Lead. Years passed with no more news. The public was gripped by the mystery. Lady Jane Franklin, Sir John's determined wife, poured her fortune into funding more search parties. She refused to let the world forget her husband and his men. Then, in 1859, a breakthrough. A search party funded by Lady Franklin found a stone cairn, a pile of rocks left as a message. Inside was a single piece of paper protected in a metal cylinder. It was a standard naval form, left by the crew. The first entry was dated May 1847. It was almost cheerful. It said all well. The ships had been trapped in the ice for a winter, but everything was under control. But around the margins of that same document, another message had been scribbled a year later. The handwriting was frantic, desperate. This second message, dated April 25th, 1848, told a horrifying story. The ships, HMS Erebus and HMS Terror, had been trapped in the ice for a year and a half. Sir John Franklin had died on June 11th, 1847. The message didn't say how. By then, 24 men in total were dead. The 105 survivors, under the command of Captain Francis Crozier, had abandoned the ships. Their plan was to trek hundreds of miles south, across the frozen wasteland, to a trading post on the Canadian mainland. It was a desperate gamble, a death march. But why would they abandon their ships? They were their only shelter, their only source of safety in a world of ice and polar bears. The answer lies in that lead solder. Modern analysis of the crew's remains shows they suffered from severe lead poisoning. This would have caused physical weakness, paranoia, and clouded judgment. They weren't thinking clearly. They were being poisoned by their own food. The very thing meant to keep them alive was killing them from the inside. As search parties followed the survivors' desperate trail south, the story grew darker. They found skeletons scattered across the ice. One boat was found on a heavy sled, dragged for miles. It contained 2 skeletons and a bizarre collection of items: silk handkerchiefs, scented soap, slippers, and books. Why would starving, freezing men drag these luxuries across the frozen desert? It speaks to their confused, poisoned minds. They were losing their grip on reality. But the most disturbing discoveries came from the local Inuit people. For years, they had told stories to the searchers. Stories of starving white men, thin and crazed, stumbling south. At first, the British public dismissed these accounts. But the Inuit held the key to the final, awful truth. They led searchers to sites where the men had camped. And there, among the scattered bones, were clear signs of the ultimate taboo. Cut marks, broken bones, evidence of cannibalism. The heroes of the Royal Navy, in their final, desperate days, had turned on each other to survive. For over 150 years, the final resting places of the ships themselves remained a mystery. Where did the Erebus and Terror end up after the crew abandoned them? The ice is a living thing. It moves, it crushes. Most assumed the ships were shattered and sunk without a trace. The search continued, using modern technology like side-scan sonar. Generations of archaeologists and explorers were obsessed with finding them. It seemed like an impossible task. The search area was immense. Then, in 2014, a breakthrough that sent shockwaves around the world. A Canadian archaeological team, guided by modern science and ancient Inuit knowledge, found it. Lying upright on the seabed, in remarkably good condition, was HMS Erebus. The discovery was incredible. It was like finding a ghost ship, perfectly preserved in the frigid water. The location lined up perfectly with the Inuit oral histories that had been ignored for so long. The Inuit had known all along. 2 years later, in 2016, the impossible happened again. Guided by a tip from an Inuit ranger, the search team located the second ship, HMS Terror. It was found in a bay aptly named Terror Bay, and it was in even better condition than the Erebus. It was pristine. Plates were still stacked in shelves, wine bottles sat unopened, and beds were still intact. The ship looked as if the crew had just walked away. A camera sent into Captain Crozier's cabin revealed an underwater time capsule. Desks, chairs, and scientific instruments, all sitting exactly where they were left over a century and a half ago. The discovery of the ships solved one part of the mystery, but opened up 100 new questions. Why was the Terror found so far south of where it was abandoned? Did a small party of men reboard the ship and try to sail it free? What exactly is preserved inside those sealed cabins? The ships are now protected archaeological sites, and the slow, careful process of exploring them has begun. Each object brought to the surface is another piece of the puzzle. We now know the men suffered from lead poisoning, scurvy, and starvation. We know they made a desperate march south. We know they resorted to cannibalism. But we still don't know the full story. We don't know what Captain Crozier was thinking when he wrote that final, frantic note. We don't know the final thoughts of the last man alive. The Franklin expedition is a story of ambition, of technology versus nature, and of human endurance pushed beyond its absolute limits. It's a chilling reminder that even with the best plans and the finest technology, the wilderness can swallow you whole, leaving behind nothing but a ghost story whispered on the Arctic wind. The wrecks of the Erebus and Terror are not just sunken ships, they are mausoleums. They hold the final secrets of the 129 men who sailed into the ice and never came home. What do you think was the biggest factor in the disaster? The lead poisoning, the brutal environment, or bad leadership? Let me know your theories in the comments below. This story is just incredible, and I want to hear what you think. If you were as captivated by this mystery as I was, please hit that like button, share this video with a friend who loves history, and make sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next deep dive into a historical mystery. Thanks for watching.